Get ready.
Hello and welcome to the SEGAbits Swingin Report Show, episode 68. I'm Barry, with me is George.
Hello.
And with us we have the development team from, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, Elysian Shadows. Is that proper way pronunciation?
Actually, we have no idea, dude. We're from Alabama. We don't speak correctly anyway.
Elysian Shadows.
Elysian, whatever.
That works.
It's a popular RPG trope to have a name that's difficult to.
Some people make it sound all regal, like Elysian Shadows. I kind of like that, so maybe I'll go with that.
That's kind of what we've been rolling with, yeah.
So why don't we go around and say who we are? We have Falco. Falco, what's your job on the team?
I'm Falco Gergis. I'm the lead engine and toolkit guy. Kind of like I'm the mad scientist of the team.
Cool. And then we have Tyler.
Yes, Tyler Rogers. I'm the lead gameplay engineer. Basically, I write just tons and tons of little scripts trying to bring our vision to life.
Awesome. And then we have Connor and a cat.
Yeah, I'm Connor, and this
creepy,
is
actually.
I'm the soundtrack composer, sound effects guy, level designer, and my cat is my moral support.
Does your cat meow? Well on air?
It keeps him from having panic attacks.
You put the cat on the spot, it ain't gonna meow.
I know, right? Never put cats on the spot. So I guess to kick things off, how are things going with the Kickstarter?
They're going really well, actually. We got 33,500 within the first 24 hours.
Wow.
But, after the initial hype dies down, then it's basically your full-time job to make sure that curve doesn't flatline. So we've had to stress the hell out about that stuff and just do PR and promotion, even though we thought we'd be able to rest after the Kickstarter.
Yeah, we hit launch and we were kind of getting ready to sit back and find we can take a breather, and then we got 1,000 emails in the first day.
Nope.
Between comments and everything else. So
no break for us.
Oh no, the hard work always starts once you post something, because then you got to hit all the social networks, you got to talk to people, you have to answer questions.
I know,
it's
and
exhausting.
crazy.
Between the Facebook and the retweets and everything, you got to stay on top of all that.
Yeah.
Did you guys expect to reach the level that you reached? You're a third of the way to your goal in only 5 days. Did you expect that?
Actually, no, absolutely not. We didn't expect the huge growth at the beginning, and we definitely didn't expect. If you look at the Kickstarter distribution, I'm so shocked that the Dreamcast is the best seller right now. I mean,
it is.
That's awesome. We love the Dreamcast, and we know there's a lot of people who still play it, but in our minds, the size of that scene was kind of limited, it's not as big as the mainstream PC audience. But I really feel like a lot of gamers that would traditionally have bought a game like this for the PC are actually opting to buy it for the Dreamcast, which to us is something fucking awesome.
I mean, we've sold out of all the signed copies already. We had 100 that were signed and the rest are not. And we're at 120 copies for the Dreamcast when the rest was, 45? Something like that. It was a huge difference for us.
I think a part of that might come from the fact, I should ask, are the Dreamcast copies going to be available to buy after the Kickstarter?
Yeah, we hope to make them available. I mean, we were doing the 3 different regions, too, and that kind of helped with that, I guess. A lot of these complete collectors, the diehard Dreamcast fans, say they want all 3, and they would give us $300 at us or something.
Yeah,
especially after we added the add-on for it.
You'll find that the Dreamcast independent collectors are definitely, there are a lot of hardcore ones out there. I mean, they'll bitch and moan about a certain genre. They're like, oh man, there's too many shoot 'em ups, and then another shoot 'em up comes out, and they go, yep, guess I got to buy that.
I know, dude. I know. I've seen so much of that, man.
Yeah, especially with the Ducks games.
That's funny as hell.
1.5 to 2.5. But your game is unique in that it's a role-playing game. It's the second one, to my knowledge, out there, but both of them have yet to release. The other one is Watermelon Games' own Solar.
Yeah. That's our publisher, right?
Yes. We actually had some questions about them later on, but yes. But I did want to ask another Kickstarter-related question. Following the whole Yogscast controversy, did that make you guys nervous about how you would approach the Kickstarter? Did it change the way that you were thinking?
Are those the guys that screwed up and royally fucked over everyone and like made Kickstarter look really bad?
Yes.
The day before we released our Kickstarter, Kotaku did an article about that, like complaining, not specifically about Yogscast, but like Kickstarter in general. And it's like, you guys are the ones that talk about them way too early sometimes. You're the one that does that kind of press, and then it fails, and then like you want to say it's all Kickstarter's fault. Like, you're backing projects that aren't going to make it. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not entirely the producer's fault.
Like, I read their Kickstarter page, and I saw like red flags all over the place, and it was kind of like,
the Yogscast one.
Yeah, it's like it's not really surprising. It's
right.
Not why this is a big deal.
I mean, it's really unfortunate, though, for people like, not to sound arrogant, but people like us who we feel like we work our asses off of this, and we've tried so long, and we've done everything right from like a development perspective and being sincere and open with the audience to adventures in game development. You know, there's not really anything we have that I feel like should be a red light as far as like they were. Yet, since we're coming after them, we're kind of getting fucked over because of their own sins. Kind of pisses me off.
Yeah. I think one of the major issues they ran into was promising all these rewards too. When I feel like they should have been focusing more on the game. Do you guys feel like you have a good balance between the rewards that you're offering and the actual effort going into the game?
Absolutely. I mean, like the reward stuff, we're really lucky because of Watermelon. I mean, they went through the process already of figuring out how they wanted to package these discs and going through the whole production process already. So we get to come in and basically we're kind of piggybacking off that already built structure that Tulio has done. So, for us to promise like physical copies of the Dreamcast, we don't have to go through all that effort. We simply do what we need to do in development, and then at that point we can get him involved and he'll help us out with that. So
nice.
We're not in over our heads on that aspect, definitely.
And if you look at the lower tier rewards, which honestly I'm very happy with them because I feel like they add a lot to the game itself, you'll notice those are things like the soundtrack, the art book, the design document, things that are fundamental to completing the game anyway, So those are things that have to be done regardless of Kickstarter or not. So it really is not taking time away from the game development itself for those rewards.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. George, you had a question about the development.
Yeah. Some people online have been very picky about what kind of projects they fund, and a lot of people have been kind of weary about you guys not delivering a game before, this being your first game. And what do you guys think about those people that are questioning you, if you guys will release the game?
I like this question.
I think they should go back and see that we've been on YouTube for 7 years just trying to teach ourselves how to code C and C++ and trying to become game developers good enough to make this game.
Yeah, one of the big advantages we have as well, because of Adventures in Game Development with our YouTube audience and with Facebook and everything like that, if you go and look at Kickstarters like Hyperlight Drifter or Heartforth or something like that, they don't have Facebook's linked with their accounts, or it's very minimal amount of shares, or they kind of came out of nowhere too. But we posted this Kickstarter with that 7-year track record. I mean, we have already a built-up social media presence, and we were able to come in. I think that's one thing that's kind of led to our success so far, being $50,000 in at this point so early, is that we've had that kind of track record.
And another thing I know people like to bitch about is that 7-year figure. They like to use it against us instead of being able to use it and be like, oh, look how committed these guys are. Are you really going to fault someone? I was 17 years old. I didn't know anything about programming or game developing when I started this vision. Are you really going to say 7 years is too long for me to have gone from there to where I am now when I was working a full-time job, going to graduate school, and I literally went from nothing from programming to creating my own multi-platform engine that runs on the Dreamcast and does all this impressive stuff? I mean, are you really going to bitch at me or hold that against me? Because I feel like that's a virtue that I'm kind of being crucified for in the scene.
I mean, that's one reason why. That's one reason why when we get that question a lot, we don't say 7 years. We say we really started in 2011, 2012, because at that point we had more or less the engine that toolkit as it's seen today. It took us forever to get to that point, and at that point we really started developing different areas, and we're able to focus more on the overall game design like that instead of just the R&D on the engine and toolkit. So then that number seems to be a little bit more positively received, which, I mean, it's not false. So
there's also the fact that we have all done our own smaller projects on the side. I mean, like, this isn't my first soundtrack. This isn't my first album. So it's not like I'm stepping into the game and I've never put out a release before.
Right. It's not like you guys are coming at it and going, gosh golly, what would it be like to make a video game?
I know. I've released demos to the Dreamcast scene, quite a few. I've released a lot of things for my masters, which have been relating to the field of graphics and computing and computer architecture, which is basically like the foundation of our entire engine.
Yeah, and one thing else too, I mean, a lot of people can, I guess, give us this flack for being ambitious, especially with like our stretch goal talking about like MMO or cloud-based save storage. Before we were actually doing this, we were both network engineers. So, I mean, there's that going for us. So we do have that kind of background working with larger code bases and a larger overall product and things from our professions in that sense before we made the jump and quit those jobs to take this on full time. So we have that kind of experience in working in teams and being agile that way anyway. So we're definitely not, I guess, new to this whole kind of concept of what
I mean, I definitely don't get that vibe when speaking with you guys and seeing your work out there. I mean, like you said, you've all completed projects using your talent, and you're just bringing it all together to actually create a project together. So, I mean, yes, you guys haven't created a game together to completion, but that's what you're doing right now.
Right.
So,
yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, everyone has to start somewhere too, as a team. You can't fault every single indie developer saying, well, you haven't made a game yet.
Being their first project.
First project.
I don't know if I can trust your first project. You haven't really made a first project yet.
Like, the engine and the toolkit are like, it's not like we're kickstarting and the engine isn't done and we don't have proof that we can actually make a game. Like, when we finish the Kickstarter, we're going to be building levels. Like, we're going right into the gameplay. It's not like we're starting from nowhere and we don't know if we can even get to that point. Like, we're already there. We just have to start actually building the levels and stuff.
And that's one thing we tried to be really clear with on our Kickstarter page. We did a ton of research on other Kickstarters, and obviously you want to try to portray a product that is pretty much already complete, if you will, to where people have that kind of secure feeling, pledging for you. But I mean, we truly do. Like Connor said, we have the engine, we have the toolkit. I mean, there's going to be some modifications to them post-Kickstarter that we just haven't had time for, but the software is not going to fundamentally change at all.
It's really funny because, like, if I were to release the engine and toolkit today, like, I'm pretty sure it would make a pretty big wave in, like, the gaming community as, holy shit,
game maker.
Multi-platform RPG, like, pseudo 2D, 3D engine just comes out for Dreamcast, Ouya, blah, blah, blah. And, like, we could literally do that right now, And yet people are saying, like, our project is, like, so far-fetched or is not, like, complete enough. It's just funny. I don't think people really understand how game development or game creation works.
Conversely to that, we do have those crazy fans. Like, some of the Greenlight comments I've been reading today, too. Like, they're the, like, diehard fans who's like, oh, we've been watching them since 2008. I've been watching them since 2009. These guys are, like, hard workers. And then we get those kind of comments, and I'm like, that guy right there, he knows.
Yeah.
Those are the ones you reward secretly later on.
Yes.
Yeah, I know. I
write down that username, and something.
Maybe that guy can start ES with, like, a little bit of extra, like, gold or something, like a little extra stat multiplier. He gets it.
That'd be great.
One part of the awards is an exclusive Zelda-inspired Master Sword. Who put that in, and how did Zelda influence your guys' game?
That was actually my idea to include that sword. I think I saw, like, some people criticizing us for that, which I think is pretty dumb. Like, basically the idea of that is to encourage you, obviously, to support our project, because once the Kickstarter is over, you don't have that sword, But Zelda has actually influenced quite a bit of the game. It's influenced, especially for me, I find a lot of influences from Zelda when it comes to the overworld, because something I truly believe, like, traditional 2D RPGs suck ass at is environmental interaction. Basically, like, the world that you're traveling through, and even games like Chrono Trigger, you don't ever interact with them, you can't really examine them. But on the flip side, in Zelda, you can blow shit up, you can set shit on fire, you can
break pots in someone's house.
Right. There's, like, so many more ways you interact with the world of Hyrule than, like, a 2D RPG. And even though we're not the same genre as Zelda, like, that was something that really stuck with me that I wanted our world to have for this game. So in that aspect, Zelda has influenced us.
Did Shenmue influence you at all?
Just a little bit. It's influenced the actual development process because like I literally would like take a break and play Shenmue sometimes like creatively.
Just look over and he's playing an arcade game in Shenmue anyway. Like.
Dude, I was trying to show Tyler Shenmue the other day. He hadn't seen it much, and I was like, basically I just ran through the entire storyline as fast as I could until I could run to the arcade and like start playing like Hang On and shit.
You're like, yeah, Dad, come on, die, all right.
Yeah, I really want to play Hang On. But yeah, one of the big things that we loved about Shenmue, and honestly, like Shenmue is an underappreciated gem. Like to this day, the level of detail that they put in. You know, you can open your dresser and pick up a goddamn object and like rotate your hand in 3D space. Like that's not even really done today in modern games. So like one thing that we really liked from Shenmue is the fact that the NPCs aren't just like retards walking back and forth like they are in, say, Pokemon, which I still love, but they're pretty much retarded. They either stand there or take 2 steps and walk back and forth. We wanted our NPCs to have depth, actual like meaning and presence in their world, not just sit there and do the same thing all damn day. They actually go back home at night or have like some semblance of a job or purpose in their society. And I really feel like as part of Shenmue's immersion, that's something that they were able to achieve on the Dreamcast.
Yeah, that time-lapse scene that we did for the Kickstarter video with all of the stalls and everything, that was not only just inspired by Shenmue 2, but like games like Fable when they first came out and first showed like that time system. You know, games like Skyrim too. Like that's I drew influences from that. You know, and then going back and looking at this Dreamcast game Shenmue 2, like it's like wow. You know, I didn't believe that any games had really done that up until those points, and you know, it's crazy.
How has I was curious how your team has evolved over the years. Have there been previous members who have left but made an impact on the game, or some of you who came on recently?
Yeah, it's actually no one really has come on recently. I will say that like this team that we have right now has been together for about 2 years, and basically like the majority of the game was developed. Actually, all of the used game was developed by this team. But we have had several people come and go over the years, and it's something that happens with an indie game, especially as ambitious as this one. For example, first of all, I also want to say the majority of the people who left, it's really funny because like they all want to come back now that we're making it big on Kickstarter. It's just hilarious.
Yeah, that happens.
But I mean, for example, when I was developing the engine, like obviously it's going to take a little bit of extra time to develop your own custom engine. Like obviously you have to pay that technical debt up front to reap the benefits of having your own engine later on. But like a lot of the team members just could not see like the creative vision that we had, you know, for Elysian Shadows to be like this next gen game with this lighting engine. And for them, like the amount of R&D that was going to like optimizing the rendering framework or whatever, or making this toolkit that will allow us to make the game, you know, they couldn't see the big picture. And to them, oh, you're not progressing at all. They didn't feel like the game was moving forward when it was actually we were just trying to get to the point where we could make the game. They kind of left, and I think now they've realized that they've really screwed up. Now that they're seeing with this technology we develop, we're now able to create like the world of Elysian Shadows as we wanted it.
Well, another thing too is like if you look now, most of our team is actually remote. Falco and I are the only ones here in Alabama, except for Dan who's visiting right now. But I mean, we've got team members all over the world, and like before, a lot of the team members were actually here locally to start out with, and you know, both either moved away for school or had other reasons for leaving the team besides that too. So now that
it's kind of weird that like the team when you were local wasn't as efficient as when the scattered across the world.
You know why though? Like even I've thought about it, like if you want to be like completely objectively analytical about it, it's because the team that's local, you know, those are just your buddies. Like they aren't necessarily like the best people in the world, committed people in the world. But with our success on adventures and game development, like it gave us an opportunity no other team has ever had, and that we were able to attract like people all around the world who were like as driven, you know, and as good as we were at code to like throw their hats into it. Yep. And like it's brought people like Connor and Patrick to us who are just like, you know, one in 1,000
of the series before they were ever team members.
Right, that we wouldn't have been able to reach out to, you know, unless we were big on YouTube. So we really benefited so much from that, and that's why our team is so efficient now and so driven. Not to mention, I'm sure we've like scared everyone else who isn't as fucking crazy as we are off the team.
Yeah, well, it pays to be driven and I guess opinionated too to get things done. Looking at the game, though, how far into development would you guys say you are, like percentage-wise?
You're talking about like in-game content as far as like
Through to
gameplay
completion, like from start to like to your day of birth through to when the game's going to be released.
I'd say like 10-15% of our assets and everything we've got right now is the beginning of the game.
No, but if you're including the engine and stuff, then you'd probably put it like over 50.
Yeah, see, it depends on what you're including. Yeah, engine and tools would put you like way over something like 50. Whereas if you're just counting like in-game assets and in-game content as far as like levels that you will be, going through in the game, not as high.
Well, another way to look at that percentage too is like it's not because we, I guess, don't have like the direction or the ideas. I mean, we've got that huge design doc that we work with, and it's just been up to this point. Like we've had to pull our artists, for example, with this Kickstarter, instead of working on in-game assets or anything else, or moving forward with these areas. Hey, we need banners, we need this, we need mock-ups of this or that. Like we need to do frames of this. Like so, I mean, that put a huge halt on all the progression. We were just as we were getting the engine and everything to that point too.
Not to mention, to be able to make art for a game like ours takes a lot more skill and a lot more time because it has to look good in 2D and 3D. So they've had to spend a lot more time on our art, and in the meantime, Tyler and I have both had to pay for art out of our own pockets.
Yes, that too.
To fund the game, so that's why there's not as much art asset progress as there has been engine and stuff, and that's really why we're on Kickstarter. That's the biggest reason, the biggest push forward.
I mean, if we can brought us there, artists working full time, being paid for, and I mean, obviously just work on just in-game content, I believe we can make our deadline of.
So to actually give an answer to the question, I would say that we are 60% done. The Kickstarters for the last 40%, and the last 40% is going to be like the funnest part.
It really is.
Right? Oh my God, I'm so excited.
Hey, yeah, so it's like we're at the best part. That's why we're doing the Kickstarters, because we want to just go for it.
I guess you could kind of equate it with like movie making, where you have to write the script, you have to do the casting. Yeah, and now you're at the film. You're going to get to the filming stage, unless
exactly.
So
it's weird because I don't. Sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, so if you guys are saying you guys are like 10 to 15% done on your assets, that does mean that you guys already have an idea how I guess the dungeons or whatever, or the levels are going to be like.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. We've got these areas planned out. I mean, the design doc that we have has screenshots from like other games we were inspired from, or even just like concept arts we found online from these different unique areas. All 7 of the main dungeons. We've got a world map that's drawn out.
Before the Kickstarter, there was even some levels like the Lauren Town, and Dan did some forest stuff that were just like playable. Like you could actually just go for it. So
I kind of broke a lot of that stuff in my process. We did some fundamental engine changes right before the Kickstarter to be able to make everything look the way we needed it to. Obviously, pushing forward as we always are. But I mean, we actually had a cohesive town. The interiors for every one of the buildings in Lauren, the museum, the church, forests, leading up to the caves and buildings. It's there.
I had a question about your guys' dynamic lighting engine you guys have with the camera's perspectives and all that. What system is because you guys have some GIFs and stuff on your guys' Kickstarter.
Yeah.
What system do you guys capture that in, and how is that going to look like on the Dreamcast?
That GIF was captured on the PC, but it should actually no, it won't look the same on the Ouya. That was captured from a PC. The Dreamcast, other than the GIF compression, which I hope people noticed, that's why the light that's what the light does. That was actually GIF compression. The Dreamcast should, in theory, look like that, only it will not be able to do the shadowing on a per pixel basis. It will be on a per vertex basis.
And that's going to be like the biggest difference between the PC version, I guess, and the Dreamcast version, right?
That's our hope. See, there's a lot of other things we're doing, like bump mapping. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but the Dreamcast was the first console to ever be able to do that. Only there was one game that ever used it, and it was Shenmue for like.
No, it wasn't
Shenmue.
It was Shenmue.
For like one frame, it was a coin, and it was a penny, and that's the only time they ever used it. So like, this is technology that's been in the Dreamcast, but its demise was so early that it wasn't even really mainstream in 3D graphics.
Developers don't even know how to do it.
We have the opportunity to try to tap into that power that's never been used on the Dreamcast, So there's this risk, that maybe it's not as developed as we thought it was, or it's not going to have the performance we thought it was, which hopefully that's not the case. But, there's also the chance that we could be, like the first Dreamcast game that's ever been able to pull off lighting effects like this.
And the nice thing with that, too, a lot of the screenshots you're seeing, I mean, we have, ambient occlusion for, helping the shadows look more pronounced and everything, and that's right now baked into the normal map. So if that can be ran on the Dreamcast in a way that would actually be efficient, look really well, I mean, we'll also have, things like that we could throw in along with the normal map, so that would be cool.
One of the other questions was, you guys have stretch goals for DLC support, user-created content, multi-language, and cloud saving?
Oh, yeah. Call us too ambitious. I'm ready for this.
I was going to say, what kind of stuff is that? I mean, what of those stretch goals are going to make it into the Dreamcast version?
I mean, obviously not cloud saving. So.
Yeah.
What? No. Why? I don't understand. The Dreamcast seems to have this opinion that we don't know what we're talking about, but this is what I do for a living, and I'm getting a master's degree in this. The Dreamcast has a freaking modem. It has a broadband adapter. You can burn swap disks. There's the coder's cable.
The SD card.
You have the SD card. Why the hell could it not support DLC? I don't understand why that is us being so outrageous. You know what I'm saying?
Quite a few people have called us out on that. Yeah.
No, I think that you could support DLC, but I think it's going to be very hard.
Absolutely could. Yeah. Well, I mean, technically, it is very possible that if especially with the Elysian Shadows Online, it's very possible. It has a broadband adapter. The Chaos Homebrew Library has an IP stack. It is very possible that A, it could go online, and B, you could grab levels from online.
Yeah. I was talking to Falco the other day, too. I mean, even users that don't have a broadband adapter, there's a very good way that we could bring those analog modems online on somebody's personal network, too.
I was just thinking, would you guys ever plan doing DLC disc where it would be another episode expansion kind of thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that's probably would be the easiest way on the Dreamcast, would be to release it episodically as a separate disc to boot. But at the same time, especially for the user created content, you could technically burn your own disc and put whatever contents, on your Dreamcast.
Yeah.
And what about multi-language? I don't know how big your guys' game is going to be in the end.
We've had quite a few people ask us that on Steam Greenlight and stuff, too. Tulio paid to have his game translated and all that, quite a few different languages. And that's tapped into those resources.
Yeah, that's really a duty of the publisher. Tulio's offered to help lend support with that and help let us use his back end. That's Watermelon's got the hook up for that.
SEGA is huge in South America, so obviously that would be really beneficial for us to translate that for the Dreamcast.
Into South Americanese.
Yeah.
Plus I know a bit of French and Spanish. So
no, you're not translating either.
No, I was just gonna say that I don't want any translator trolling and putting in the most ridiculous.
Unless I can translate it to Spanish based on what I know from Samba de Amigo, which is quite a bit.
You guys should just do a drunk translation for an extra language where everything's wrong.
Yeah, there's a Harvest Moon hack that had it was all gangster slang or something. That was pretty sweet.
That's awesome. Dude, I absolutely like that.
Once your character gets drunk enough in the game, all the dialogue just turns to slurring.
That'd be great. You could do a Grand Theft Shadows.
Parallel park with 3 people.
Yeah, there you go. So actually, speaking of Watermelon, I'll skip ahead to a question we had. Can you tell us more about your collaboration in detail? And I guess you already kind of answered. Oh, and the other question I had, and this is probably more of a Watermelon question for them, but with the PAL copies, they have very distinct cases. Are they looking to make special cases?
Absolutely. I've seen it.
That's why we've gone with them for a publisher. They're very detailed.
They are actually going out and they are generating a mold, creating it themselves that is completely accurate to the PAL case. I've seen it. It's impressive. It really is. What their dedication to authenticity is very impressive. That's why they're our publisher. That's why we're damn. Tulio came out and he brought, I'm not sure, have you guys seen the case for Pierce Solar for the Mega Drive or Genesis?
I have it, yeah.
It's incredible, man. It really is. When he brought it out, he gave us both copies. He came to visit us, before the Kickstarter, check how we were doing, kind of give us advice. He's really he's a very good friend of ours and a mentor. He brought it out, man. When I saw a game case, I didn't even want to fucking open it because the case itself
and the tape around it had like watermelon embroidery. Like it was just the work of art.
Yeah, they do a beautiful job. Yeah, I did a comparison video of that and the original Genesis cases, and they even got the texture right, on the slipcover basket. It makes that.
No, I didn't even notice that. Wow. Yeah.
I know. It's touching how much love and tender care puts into that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, he even had these screws for the back of the SEGA Genesis cartridge manufactured because he wanted them to be as similar as possible. He didn't want to have just some random screws thrown in. So they actually match the original screws that were in the back.
Yeah, that's wild. But he, just with the Dreamcast ones, I know the big thing with a lot of the indie publishers, even if they're like a German company, they'll make a Japanese designed case to the point where they'll like translate it into Japanese, and that kind of annoys me just because I love the Japanese design, but I want to read about the game, and I know this isn't like, especially with you guys aren't Japanese, so can we expect to see English in the Japanese release?
Yeah, I'm almost positive that is the plan. That might be more of a watermelon question, but no, I'm almost positive that just, the case itself is not. I think that all of the copies of the game will have all the languages, but I also think the Japanese style case still has English text. But you need to confirm that just in case.
Yeah, I think Pure Solar is going to have that, so I was just curious. I mean, I don't want to hate on Japanese. But
yeah. I'm not sure. You can probably assume that we'll have what Pure Solar has.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool. Then both games will definitely look awesome on a shelf next to each other.
Yeah, no, I can't wait.
And another stretch goal, Dreamcast related, is the Monster Training minigame.
Yes.
iOS and Android app, and that's like a game in of itself.
Tell me that's not an awesome idea.
That's awesome. Do you? I mean, have you?
Were you were gonna question the ambition of it?
No. I was gonna ask how far you are, and just like, because I know since it's a stretch goal, I'd assume you haven't like.
The beauty about it was when we started first discussing that idea of doing that, we're like, okay, how much more effort would this be? Where can we place this in our stretch goal listing, everything like that? And we decided very quickly that we got to come up with the monster stats already. We'd have to already come up with like all their attack names. I mean, everything you can imagine that way.
The fundamentals are already in the engine for that, like obviously, because we have to create the monsters.
Just a wrapped up little mini game like that would not be difficult at all. It's not that much more overhead, and we wanted to do something incredibly special for the VMU anyway. I mean, regardless of hitting that stretch goal, we will incorporate it. But
another thing people are like overlooking because they think like we're dumb and we're just overly ambitious and we don't know what we're talking about, which is funny, is the fact. So we were going to make a VMU mini game anyway. Yeah. So for the iPhone and Android app, we were actually going to bundle it with a VMU emulator. So we're not even making a separate app. It is like literally you're playing the VMU version of the game to where it's emulated. And you're getting, not only are you getting like the authentic VMU experience on your phone, but I mean, it's also less work on us. And it's for that reason, because we had thought that through.
Now, with this VMU emulator, would fans be able to put other VMU games on it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I would say so. But I'm not saying that's within the scope of this project, but you would assume, I would easily assume that we would release it as like a standalone VMU thing. Not to mention, I don't think we could release it with like Sonic Chow Garden or anything like that on it.
No,
you would have to download that yourself.
You would have to figure out how to do that, but I mean, it's entirely possible because the exact same app we would be playing on the phone would be what's VMU. So
that'd be very cool. Yeah, I used to make VMU animations as a kid, so
me too.
VMU animator.
Were you at Boyoka?
Yeah, I was. I think.
Yeah, dude, that was awesome.
I forgot what my name was on there, but I did one of Jet Set Radio. Awesome. I did one of Eggman Blimp exploding. So, yeah, there's some good stuff.
Yeah, man, we were talking about that the other day. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and go ahead.
I was going to ask one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
I was going to ask a question. Barry, is that all right?
Yeah, do it.
Okay. I was going to say, if you guys are going to have the multiplayer thing, when you guys connect the two VMUs.
Oh, man, I want to do that so much.
That would be so freaking
Did they ever do that in any game? For the Dreamcast?
I've never used it myself, but I used to do that so I could swap data with friends. But that's the only thing I've used it for.
I think that's right. In the second Chow Garden,
you could actually link them and they played together, or they fought.
Oh, I think so. I have to look that up.
Yeah, I don't remember if it actually did that or not. Like I remember thinking, like, as a developer, like, man, why didn't they ever make games where you could, like, connect them and fight together like that? You know, I knew you could transfer save
like
files.
Tamagotchi or whatever?
Yeah, exactly.
Or the Digimon?
Yeah, that was something that, like, I really wanted to try to do. I don't know if there is some technical reason they couldn't do it, but I could have sworn I couldn't think of a game where they had actually done it on a commercial game. But
give us that stretch goal and we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll find out. We would definitely like to do that, you know, but I'm honestly, I don't know, like, the VMU hardware enough to say, like, exactly how feasible that is.
Yeah, I can tell you that by connecting two VMUs, you can have your chows breed, apparently.
Oh.
What does that even mean?
I don't know.
I know, right?
Yeah.
So maybe we can have monster breeding.
That's interesting.
Well, if there's one person who can figure it out, it would be Falcon.
We need to go bust out the Chow Garden, dude, and look at it.
Yeah, do some research. Let me go get my Dreamcast out.
I haven't checked on the Chow in, like, years, man.
They're probably all dead.
Yep.
The garden full of skeletons. That's awesome. What was that, George?
I didn't have anything to say. What? It's your question. I interrupted you. You're going to go on.
Me. No, I forgot my question. I was going to ask now. Well, boy, I mean, we ran through our questions, but George, did you have any other questions for the guy?
I was going to ask him what VMU minigames inspired him to try to make a VMU minigame.
Oh, that's nice.
Almost like every Game Boy game, really.
I'm trying to think if there's any big one that inspired me to want to do it. You know, like
my Chow Garden was probably the
like I think like for me it's a mixture of like remembering how fucking cool it was to like bring my VMU to school like with my Chow Garden and be like fuck you teacher and like play it under the desk.
I used to play Magic
like,
with my VMU.
How much I like Pokemon, like I think between that and like Chow Garden, I'm like, man, I really want to do something. And like I don't feel like as a developer we can release something like trying to be like this epic, really cool game with like the full like Dreamcast feels and experience, you know, without supporting something on the VMU. So I don't know. That's kind of always in the back of my mind. And then we started, you know, thinking about like what we could do with it, and like this whole monster thing came up, and I was
and all the other peripherals too.
I was just like, yes.
Yeah, I guess
you're missing out on the absolute best VMU thing though. Was in Resident Evil, and it had like the fine thing going.
Oh, I love that.
That was the best.
Dude, I know. Like on the Dreamcast, you don't even have to pause to check.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Can we expect HDMI support?
HDMI support?
Or VGA out, I mean?
Oh, yeah, VGA out. Yeah.
I go through VGA.
That's already there. I was like, HDMI, holy shit, are we developing hardware now?
Do it.
Yeah, but
that's
that's already there. Actually, when I develop, I don't even have a TV in my like office studio area. It's just a Dreamcast on VGA, so.
Cool. And how about the jump pack?
Yep, we should be able to support that.
Okay, how about the microphone?
I used to screw with that when I was like a kid.
We talked about using the microphone possibly for either online reasons, which is crazy, or interactive.
Yeah, I don't know about online, but yeah.
The fishing pole, the maracas, all of it.
I was going to say, yeah, I mean, is there any chance that there could be secret mini games involving where it's like plug the fishing rod in, play the fishing?
Yeah, absolutely. We've talked about that, and we really want to do that. You know, I can't promise that we'll do that. But we have ideas for mini games, you know, like Zelda has their little fishing game that, you know, sucks ass, and we could make it better
with mobile too because of the accelerometer and everything.
What's
so like all the other versions of the game aren't necessarily missing out on.
Also, for everyone who's about to hate on us for being like overly ambitious, once again, I grew up coding for the Dreamcast and checking out how all these peripherals work, and they literally map to the same buttons as like the standard controller. So like on the maracas, one maraca is the left analog stick input, and then one is the right analog stick, which no controller used, but it was still there on the Maple bus. So, yeah.
I mean, George and I did a live stream of Jet Set Radio, and I just went through all the accessories, and I played Jet Set Radio with the maracas. I played with the fishing controller.
That's awesome.
So, I mean, obviously it doesn't work that well.
Right. But yeah, you can see to where, I mean, you're not having to like do anything fundamentally different. It's mapped to the same buttons.
So, I mean, it's those little things, even like you're saying, they're just mapped to the same buttons, but those little things, if you can get them in there, it means a lot to indie Dreamcast fans. And
I think so.
And I mean, you know, not that your goal is to like be newsed on sites, but you know, it's like if someone were to hear that an indie game is supporting all these controllers, it might just increase the awareness even more. So
absolutely.
Well, maybe that's good.
So one of the questions I had was
maybe that'll get us on Kotaku.
Yeah, there you go.
Maybe. I was going to say one of the questions is when the VMU is plugged in and you're playing the game, Are you guys going to do anything special with the VMU?
Yes,
we've already talked about that.
We just don't know exactly what yet, but like that's
a couple different ideas.
Revisiting and discussing. We were actually talking about that the other night when I got Ducks out, when it came in the mail and I started playing it, like that Duck came up again. We're not sure what exactly yet, but absolutely it's going to be something. And we really like in Resident Evil where it actually, like, you know, you look down
meant something
fine instead of having to go to a pause menu, like, wow, that's genuinely useful. We want something like that, you know, with utility to go on it instead of something like, oh, it's just flashing like an icon in Skies of Arcadia or something.
Yeah. I was just going to say, being the survival horror fan, that if anything, I will be yelling at them to put the little fine thing.
Well, there you go. Like, worst case, it will be that.
Yeah. Well, you just talking about the light and dark as gameplay. So would there be kind of like a Resident Evil kind of vibe in the darker areas?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look at Connor smiling over there.
Yeah, he's just grinning ear to ear.
Yeah, but that's something that, like, we've kind of been mentioning a lot lately, and it's kind of like come out of, I don't want to say it's come out of nowhere, but it's something we never had originally planned for in the game. Like, it wasn't in the design document or anything, but when we started getting these dynamic lights in, and especially with Connor being as into survival horror as he is, like, we've kind of been able to notice, like, oh, wow, we can use these lights to create, like, emotional tension in a way that, like, traditional 2D games could never do, you know, because they don't have dynamic lighting. And we always wanted, like, the ruins to have, like, these dark vibes to be kind of creepy, you know. Like, once we saw that, like, we're like, oh, I really like where that's going. So creatively, like, that was kind of, I don't know, that was kind of new, and it's something that kind of arose organically that we just kind of rolled with it because we liked it. We liked the way it felt.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when I joined, it wasn't part of the project really, but I started seeing these lights and I was like, can you give me a flashlight? And like, could I do this? And then once I started doing that, I sent them like some of my old survival horror based music that I made. And I was like, we can't not do this.
No, yeah.
We were talking about using lights. You know, we can, with different specular maps and materials in the game, too. You know, we could have, like, almost like a UV light where there's a blood trail you can only see while, like, that light is shining on it. You take the light away, and it's just go, like, back to normal ground. So you could have, like, bloody footprints you'd have to follow or something crazy like that. And as we were doing all this Kickstarter stuff, and, you know, we finally got, like, the Pixel Perfect Shadows book, and Connor was playing around with a bunch of different scenes and everything else. And, like, everything he was saying us, I was like, this is terrifying. I love it. Like, that's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's pretty awesome.
What about, did Limbo play any part in...
Yes. For me, it did. I've played Limbo. I love Limbo. I love the just ambient kind of darkness and, like, isolation that you get with that.
Dude, what's Limbo?
I'll show it to you. It's on my
Shit, I probably shouldn't have said that on a live stream. I don't know what that is.
I just
remember a hole and you're, like, going under it. No, yeah, because I just think, when I think of RPGs, I'm never, like, thinking, oh, this game's going to be scary. I don't want to play this at night. But, I mean...
I know, right? Yeah.
If you guys are looking to tap into that, and I mean, like, that's what Limbo did to me, was when I got it, I was like, well, there's no way that this stupid game would scare me.
Oh, God, yeah, the feel, like the spider and
Limbo did it?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was surprised by how such a flat, two-dimensional game can actually be scary. I always thought that was just...
I want to check that out. I like that. That's cool.
I actually told the guys on the team that I was sleeping. It was a few months before we started doing the Kickstarter, and I had this dream that I was Julian, and I'm playing in the thing, and I open a chest, and I have a fear of spiders, so it's, you know, it doesn't help. But you open the chest like you think you're going to get an item, and then this spider leg just starts crawling out, and then my survival horror music starts playing, and I literally just woke up screaming. And I was like, we can do this.
That's right. Yeah.
So it can be done.
Well, as long as you don't put screamers in the game, I think that would be pretty awesome.
I was going to ask about gear. You know, these kind of games, are you guys going to be focused on gear or be focused on... I mean, like, when you get loot in some of these games, they just feel like, oh, it's the same piece, but, like, +3 strength. Like, how are you guys doing this?
I'm inspired by the classic, like, turn-based games like the Final Fantasies and stuff like that aren't as crazy as, like, I don't know, like Diablo 3, where, like, you just are showered in items and they're meaningless and it's simple, like, little tiny stat changes and stuff like that. You know, I love, like, unique accessories that do something different than the rest of them.
Like Super Mario RPG has a lot of that.
Yeah.
Especially
unique feels.
Mario RPG.
I played actually like World of Warcraft for a long time, more than I'd care to admit on air. And like watching how they redesigned all their items constantly, and how like just so much of it like felt meaningless. You know, I'm really would love to create an item-based system that like these different swords or weapons or pieces of armor bring with them components of like not just combat stuff, but like visually too, to where like you get this sword and it has like this really cool like fire ability and stuff with it. I mean, it adds like that extra bit of flair and personality to the game. To where yes, I guess to answer your question, it will be gear focused, but I don't want just like cookie cutter. Well, here you got the new sword that's +3 more strength and it looks the same. Like absolutely not. I'm wasting my time into this. That's what it feels like to me at that point.
How are you guys planning on doing dialogue? Like, are you guys going to do like a dialogue tree? Are you guys going to do a set story where you just go through the story and you don't have a choice in dialogue? Or how are you guys going to handle that?
For the characters, one of the things, like first of all, Julian plays more or less as the silent protagonist, to where you are kind of experiencing his story throughout the game, but you're really seeing your party's reactions in the rest of the world and things like that. So for the main story arc, it will be linear in the sense that there is, a beginning, a subpath, and an end. But we wanted to have just tons of side quests, not just for like the party members. We wanted to be able to expand your relationship with the party members. And like, say you like this one character, you could do extra stuff with them and increase your friendliness, which may very well change dialogue at certain points. It's not going to alter the output of the game, but like this character may speak up more during a certain cutscene, because you become that much more friendly with them. But also like subquests and extra stuff for like areas too. I mean, you go to like a new area, and not only are you unlocking, say, like, okay, the new weapons vendor for that area, but like you now have like a bunch of extra side quests where you can really build on the lore of the area, the people that live there, things like that too. So, I mean, we've talked about the main story of the game being about 3 hours, but with all the extra side quests and everything else, there's going to be a ton more for like that true RPG fan. I feel to really sink their teeth into.
And I know that you're completely different teams and all, but with Pure Solar, are there any plans of having maybe like an Easter egg from that game in this? Characters from that game.
Why would we do that?
That would be crazy.
Just asking. Just put if the idea is not out there.
Tuliov's going to watch this and be like, oh, what the hell are they doing? What are they doing? We would never do that.
No, of course not.
But we're all huge fans of cameos and secrets. Like, if there's not a wall somewhere that says Red Rum on it or something, like, I would be upset. Like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
We already talked about how a ton of different pop culture influences and Easter eggs, and I really enjoy the feeling when playing a game that, like, you see something like that happen, or, like, you see, like, a character that resembles someone else, and you're like, I wonder if they meant to do that, or, like, if it's a strong enough thing, you're like, I see what they did there. Almost kind of face palms. You're just like, geez.
And it's kind of different too, because you don't see a lot of Western developed RPGs in this style. So like when I was playing Pure Solar, I would see like dialogue or things being mentioned that didn't seem Japanese at all, and then I had to remind myself, this is not a Japanese RPG.
Yeah, it's funny because we've been having kind of like that same internal dialogue, or at least I have with myself. I'm like, we look kind of JRPG, we're very influenced by Japanese RPGs, but like at the same time, I really feel like our storyline and a lot of our creative direction is very Western,
So like our combat and everything. Too.
Right. It kind of has like this weird like mixture of both, that it's hard to put a label on us. It's definitely, when we started, I think we were more Japanese RPG-ish than we are now. I really think that especially our storyline is very Westernized, I feel like. Mm-hmm.
But it's also, just to clarify, because at least from the survival horror world I come from, but when you say Japanese and you say Western, Japanese is like creepy and Western is like Saw and Hostel times 1,000. So when we say Western, we mean like it's not like it's shallow and Hollywood. Just to make sure people know that, obviously.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, we do have
because that's what I think when I hear it because of the survival horror background. Just making sure people know it's going to have a lot of depth and it's not shallow and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I mean, from my perspective, it's more like a lot of things get lost in translation because you're dealing with a team, who are developing for a very different kind of culture.
Yeah. Right. And
they're probably just given a script, to translate. They don't necessarily know the designer's true intentions with the dialogue, Yeah.
Right. Like a lot of the old RPGs, you'll always expect that if you see an old woman or an old man, you're always going to be very nice to them. You're going to be respectful to your elders, and you're going to love your mom and dad. And I mean, I think it would actually kind of surprise me if I saw a American or European developed JRPG where the kid was just a total snot and like kicked an old man over. You know what I mean? It's things that kind of like not take you out of the game, but
make Julian a dick.
Yeah. It's kind of refreshing, at least from what I've played in Pure Solar, to see the characters not follow those general traits that you find in.
Right. Yeah. I agree too. It's funny. We've never like had the opportunity to completely beat Pure Solar all the way through because the game is so goddamn rare for Genesis that we started playing it as a team like together, especially with how hard we've been working for the Kickstarter, be up for days, sleep 20 hours like at night to kind of wind down. We've been like as a team kind of playing through Pure Solar, and that's one of the things we noticed too as we were doing that. So it's kind of cool, with like our kind of our mentor company and our publisher being able to like play through their original RPG
we felt we really
kind of share ideas, and discuss things like that. It's really kind of cool.
Now, can we expect to see some of your guys, like you're just speaking with you now, your personality coming through the game, or is it just
absolutely, man? Okay. And especially like the older I get, like I'm realizing that like there's more of like myself in this game than like I almost care to admit. There's more of like I don't know, like I guess. Artistically, you always want to like make an emotional connection with an audience. That's what art is. But like, I really feel like I've put a lot of myself into at least my aspect. I'm sure the rest of the guys feel the same way. That, like, we're looking to make like that same emotional connection with the audience there.
Well, we're really giving everything that's all we can in this.
So we've been working on it for so long. It's like semi-autobiographical. There's like a portion of us in it. So like, I don't know. It's just weird. It's weird.
I'm also a huge fan of games where, like, if you have monsters and stuff, it's not just monsters, but there's, like, a backstory. And, like I don't know if anybody knows why Pyramid Head exists in the game or whatever, but, like, when you put your own backstory into it and the design of the monster is something personal to you instead of it just being like, oh, it's a demon. Oh, no. But if it actually, like, all the stuff that we put in is, like, personal. Yeah. It's not just that would look cool.
Right. It's really not.
Well, that's great to hear then, because that means you wouldn't be going paint by numbers. I would like to buy a sword. Of course, stay away from it.
No, that's absolutely not. I feel like we have a very unconventional storyline, and one of the things like I think we as writers want is we want people to go like when they're playing ES like, holy shit, like this 2D game has a storyline this fucking like deep and relevant. Like that's what I want. Like, whoa, what the fuck? Like I kind of want you to be like taken aback by like how deep and engaging the storyline actually is for 2D RPGs aren't necessarily like known for that much as good as they are. Final Fantasy VI was a great game, but I don't feel like the level of emotion and realism that the characters were able to portray was the same as like FF9.
Right. So it's inspired to a point. You're not going to expect like retro cheesiness with like the dialogue so much as more like the apples look funny, right. Or something like that. Like
it would be nice if you went into a mansion and you went, "What is this?"
Yeah.
What a mansion.
I was going to ask. You said that you guys had a lot of side quests.
Yes.
What kind of side quests are we looking at? Are we looking like kill 10? Rabbits, World of Warcraft stuff, or are we thinking like in-depth side quests?
Actually, in-depth side quests. I'm a fan of like kind of quest chains to where when you walk up to somebody and they're like, oh, it's not like a billboard like what you said with like go kill 10 boars and bring me their livers, you go and you get like a side quest with somebody and like you could actually kind of continue on that so when you get to a point with like that temporary character like. That's the nice thing about our party system, too. It's not just do we have, like, our core main characters. We can easily add, say, like, a weapon shop vendor or something to your party. And you can go on a quest with him for a short amount of time. And you can join your party and interact in combat and things like that without too much more overhead. So, we could bring in these kind of temporary cast members and things like that. And you could do several different key sequences with them. So I feel like that'll be a lot more meaningful to people.
And especially as a writer, like side quests like that give you a lot more freedom. And that, like, let's say you have like 5 party members. You know, maybe the player only identifies with a subset of them. You know, maybe he doesn't give a shit about like 2 gameplay hours of like backstory of these other characters. It really gives you an opportunity to let the character or the player decide, you know, like which ones they're more invested in, which story arcs are worth their time pursuing without having to force it down the throat of the other ones, you know, and also without like fundamentally changing the main story arc.
Yes.
So it's kind of nice in that aspect. It gives you added flexibility as a writer.
Did any of you guys play Black and White on the PC?
Yes.
So
it almost came out on the Dreamcast.
It almost came out on it was canceled.
Oh,
Yep.
man. Yeah.
But like when you do the side quests and you get like a spell that you wouldn't otherwise get, it enriches the rest of the game because you put in that effort and then you have this new option to you. Whereas if you just rush through the game, you get A to B, but you don't get any of the extra stuff. That's like really
right. And that's kind of how, design-wise, I like that.
How many unlockable characters can you have during the game? Like, do you have you can only have 5 unlockable and switch between them, or can you have like 50 characters unlocked and then you can switch between, you know?
For the we had like kind of set personalities we really wanted to make sure that we portrayed in the game. They're very, very strong personas. Since the main character is kind of silent, I think we settled around 7 or 8 overall, like kind of archetypes that way. The other characters, like those temporary ones we were talking about, wouldn't necessarily be ones that you would, at any given point, be able to have in your party other than, like, as a guest. There wouldn't be someone that you would be able to, say, take to the final end boss or something like that. It would be for, like, the area that they're in.
One thing we're not, I don't know if you guys have ever played Chrono Cross. Like, it's an amazing game, but there are so many goddamn playable characters. There's like 40 or something. That every one has to be so shallow and watered down that none of them really are likable or relatable or have like any meaningful backstory. So that's one thing Elysian Shadows isn't. You know, like we have characters that we've specifically like developed and endowed with like these personality traits that interact with other characters exactly.
Yeah, we have a chart of character interactions for the party, how this one will interact with this one.
Right. Because I feel like there's a lot more depth in our characters, and that's something that we would rather have is like more deep, meaningful characters than just a whole shit ton of potentially playable characters that you don't really care about.
Oh, I agree. I was going to say, when you played Chrono Cross, were you a little disappointed at thinking it was going to be like Chrono Trigger?
I was, man. Honestly, I was.
I was too, and I told my friend, and he's like, you're not a real fan, and I'm like...
Dude, I get the same thing. I'm like, what the hell, man? It's nothing like Trigger.
Agreed, 100%. I used to get shit for it all the time. I don't care. I also got shit for not liking Final Fantasy VII. So.
Oh, I hate Final Fantasy VII. Out of all the Final Fantasies, that's oh my god. I play Legends of Dragoon instead and just pretend like it doesn't exist.
There you go.
Hey, I like FF7 for everyone who's like, I'm not buying ES because he doesn't like FF7.
hey, 8 and 9 are amazing.
I just like 9 better. Yeah, I like 7.
8 and 9 are amazing.
I guess if we had one final question, do you guys have a projected release date? I know it's early to ask that, but
we put on the Kickstarter. We've been saying December 2015. I wish we could put a year up because I feel like maybe that would make us. Well, I don't know that it would make us look better, but I think people like to see about a year turnaround on Kickstarter. But nope, we are not. No.
No.
We don't want to screw people over, and have delays, which is especially what Kickstarter is known for right now. So we put a year and a half.
Right. And are there certain, stretch goal gifts that you think would be available before the game releases?
Yes, I do. I'd have to go through the list to know exactly which ones, but a lot of them, especially some of the digital things, are absolutely should be available before then.
And how about with updates too? Are you guys going to keep up on those? They always make people feel good.
So, there's a few things. I don't know if you guys know of our Adventures in Game Development series.
Yes, I do.
So that's one thing that we really want to keep doing is that's why we have a really dedicated fan base is we show every freaking aspect of our game development from dude, I haven't slept for days, to here's this new here are these new sprites or this new boss. You see all of it. And we feel like being real and being open with the audience like that is kind of why we've been successful as we are now. And it's really weird. If you look at our Kickstarter, the average contribution is something of about as close to $100, which is ridiculous for a Kickstarter.
It is.
We don't have like the big media coverage from like the Game of Sutras and stuff, but what we have is people who've seen us developing this game for so long, and they've seen like what we've put into it, and they can actually see how dedicated we are, which gives them complete faith. That's why we have this weird backer ratio where our average is $100 per backer. I feel like.
Oh yeah,
That's impressive.
So everybody that's listening, everybody that buys the Dreamcast version, it comes with a PC or whatever equivalent code, right? Or is it just some of the tiers?
I think it's some of the tiers. I'm not sure exactly how we were going to do that yet. And either we were also going to add an add-on for additional digital copies, especially because we want to do the cloud save thing. We wanted to make it easy to get copies for whatever console without having to pay like the full price again.
Yeah. And also another thing too is like the prices are more relevant to the consoles that they're targeted towards. It's not like an overall $50 for any console. Like the mobile ones will be cheaper than obviously the $49 Dreamcast, because that they had to produce a physical disc for that one. So we have like the digital downloads, I believe, for 10 and 15 right now. So that'll be definitely more geared towards that.
So Barry, you have a question?
I think I'm questioned out. I just want to thank you guys so much for answering all the questions.
Thanks, guys. Hey, community. I hope I've seen some people on SEGAbits. Like I was going to bitch you out because I'm that guy on our team. Like I'm sorry, I wear like my heart on my sleeve, and I'm like really emotionally invested in this project. But Connor here is Canadian, and he gets so pissed when I like bitch people out publicly. but there's a lot of people like hating on us for being like, quote, first of all, unprofessional, which is dumb as hell, because yes, we are unprofessional, but that has nothing to do with our work or our work ethic.
Yeah.
But for being inexperienced or for this being our first game, when like I think our YouTube series really speaks for itself, and the fact that we've developed our own engine. It's
not really coming out of nowhere, yeah.
It's really kind of weird, I feel like, for the gaming community, because it's not often that a project like ours arises where we did build our own engine and toolkit, where you have to take that into consideration as well when you're like, oh my God, these guys have been working on this game for forever, So I think a lot of gamers just fundamentally don't understand that, or don't understand like what's involved in the game development process there. And I think we catch a lot of shit for that.
Yeah, and that's why I brought it up. I wanted you to, defend yourself.
Right. Yeah. So there's,
you guys are passionate,
and I know they'll keep hating, but whatever.
Yeah.
You guys are passionate, and there will always be people with their opinions out there. But I mean,
that's why I always tell Falco, haters gonna hate.
Yeah. And what you do is you just ignore them. Complete the game, release it, and then say, all right, what now?
Right.
When the next game comes up, you're like, we just made one already, so there's your proof.
I can't wait for that. For our second game, then I'll have to go through that shit from the first game. That'll be nice.
Well, just so you guys know, I do know Tim. So I can say, I'll make an article when the game comes out. I'll say, what now, Tim?
Thank you. Yeah, Tim. Damn it, Tim. Is that the guy with the Pikachu avatar?
Yeah.
Tim, send me a personal message, bro. We have much to talk about.
There you go. Well, thanks again, guys, for talking to us. Again, it's Falco, Tyler, and Connor of Elysian Shadows, or ES, as they've been calling it.
Yes.
So,
thank you. Thanks for having us, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's on Kickstarter. 25 days to go. We are
support us, and if we pull this off, man, and we make this game, we would love to be back and update you guys after the Kickstarter.
No, absolutely. We love doing that with teams out there having Kickstarters and projects going on. Just checking in with you guys every few months. So
awesome. Post-mortem on how everything actually goes.
Absolutely. Right. Absolutely. So maybe even in a month we could have you guys on.
Totally. Well, I mean, as long as we pass it, because if we fail it, I'll be so
Hey,
I won't show my face on the internet.
Yeah, right. If you guys want to come on and cry, we can.
That'll be it.
No, but I have faith.
Thank you.
Sounds good, man.
All right. You guys take care.
You too. See ya.
All right. Bye-bye.